Among the options on the beer wall at Walter's Sports Bar are Annapolis IPA, Green City IPA, Raised by Wolves, and Vienna Lager. Walters is located across the street from Nationals Park.
Whether you're a world-class athlete or a podcaster like me, we all understand the importance of mental and physical well-being and proper recovery for top-notch performance. That's why I'm excited that Unified Healing is sponsoring this podcast. Unified Healing is a new and super innovative global network of wellness centers powered by Energy Enhancement System, or EE System. If you haven't heard of the EE System, you'll want to listen up. This technology promotes wellness, deep relaxation, purification, and rejuvenation. In hundreds of locations across the globe, access to a center is easy and affordable. Interested in experiencing the EE System technology for yourself? Go to unifiedhealing.com/bluewire to learn more and find a center near you. That's unifydhealing.com/bluewire. No material or testimonials on the Unified Healing website are intended to be viewed as medical advice or a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified healthcare provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition or treatment and before undertaking a new healthcare regimen, including EE System.
Irvin fires. Swinging a line drive to short, one hop. Abrams has it on his heels, throws to second for the force out to retire the side. That was a rocket. It almost knocked Abrams backwards as he fielded it on one bounce. So Irvin walks the tightrope and makes it to the other side. Sail ready. There goes Abrams. The pitch is a ball. The throw to second is by the second baseman, Albies. So Abrams is going to score. Nationals lead 1-0. They pull off the double steal. Murphy tried to gun down the trail runner. Braves had second and third, no outs. They have second and third with 2 outs, with the Nationals leading 2-0. Irvin ready, here it is. Swinging a fly ball, left center field, not deep. Winker is calling for it. He's moving in on it. He makes the catch. What a job by Jake Irvin here in the 6th inning. He strands runners at second and third with nobody out.
Listen to this crowd, Nationals fans coming to their feet. No balls, 2 strikes, 2 out. Top of the 9th inning. Feels like the postseason. The kick and the pitch. Strike 3 call! A fastball down the middle at 99 miles an hour. And bang, zoom, flash those red and white lights. A Curly W's in the books.
And welcome to Nats Chat for Saturday, June 8th, 2024, what is the 14-year anniversary of starting pitcher Steven Strasburg's unforgettable Major League regular season debut. A happy Strasmus to those who celebrate. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. Mark Zuckerman is off for this installment of the podcast. I can neither confirm nor deny that Mark is hanging out with Flo Rida after the concert at Nationals Park on Friday night, but I am joined by the mastermind of the Nats Chat podcast, Tim Shovers. I can confirm that, and I can say that the Flo Rida concert at Nationals Park on Friday night happened before a sellout crowd and happened after a Nats win, a 2-1 win over the Atlanta Braves in Game 2 of a 4-game series. The Nats snapped their 4-game losing streak, and for this regular season now are 28-35. This installment of the Nats Chat podcast is brought to us by the DC Grays. DC Grays Baseball, an all-volunteer nonprofit that brings baseball and softball to kids in under-resourced neighborhoods of Washington, D.C. The DC Grays 2024 season now is underway. To donate and learn more about the Grays, visit dcgrays.com. The Nats on Friday evening beat the Braves despite facing one of the best starting pitchers in the majors this season, Chris Sale. Chris Sale came into Friday number 1 among all qualified National League pitchers in FIP, fielding independent pitching, for this regular season. And Tim, while the Nats on Friday evening didn't hit a ton, they did hit enough. They got another well-pitched game from starter Jake Irvin, got a good game from the bullpen, and the Nats wound up with one of their better wins of this season.
Really good win, Al. If you told me before the game that Chris Sale would be dominant early, would end with double-digit strikeouts, and that the Nats would give away a 4th out to the Braves lineup in both the 8th and 9th inning, I would have guessed that they would have lost. But the Nats held on. Jake Irvin continues to pitch well. Jake Irvin's summer might be getting a little bit busier come next month. Who knows where this is going? Yeah, I would agree. one of the best wins of 2024.
So to take you behind the scenes of the Nats Chat podcast, Tim and I, after the broadcast on, Thursday night for Friday, talked about how many strikeouts Chris Sale would wind up with. And he does wind up with a pretty dominant outing, all things considered. 2 runs in 7 innings, 10 strikeouts versus 1 walk. But the Nats found a way to get the win, and in large part because of Jake Irvin. Now, I don't know if you say that Irvin outdueled Sale. I guess you could. Sale 2 runs in 7 innings, Irvin 6 scoreless innings. Sale was a lot more dominant than Irvin was. Sale, again, 10 Ks, 1 walk. Irvin, 4 strikeouts, 2 walks. But the bottom line is that Jake Irvin was very good again. And you're right, man. This is becoming interesting with Jake Irvin. And maybe he does find himself in the All-Star game. Who knows? I mean, he's going to need to keep this going. But who can say that he won't keep this going with the way that his season is going? So Irvin on Friday evening, 6 scoreless innings, gave up just 4 hits, which were 3 doubles and a single, issued the 2 walks, had the 4 strikeouts, again threw a lot of strikes, 96 pitches, 64 strikes, 32 balls. The Jake Irvin train continues to roll. Jake Irvin now, for this regular season, 13 starts, ERA of 3.12, a whip of 1.03. He is flirting with a whip of under 1 at this point. And to do this against the Braves, we all know, a very good team. Irvin gets the job done again. He has been maybe the Nats' most consistent starting pitcher this season. I mean, at this point, it's him and Mitchell Parker who have been the Nats' most consistent starters. And I just don't think you can heap enough praise on the job that Jake Irvin is doing right now.
You can't. He's pitching like a good team's number 2. I wouldn't say that he's been an ace. I wouldn't go that far. But to the point now where you just have a lot of confidence in Irvin when he pitches. Oh, Irvin's on the mound. Nats have a chance to win today. And even though he's been doing this now for a few months, I didn't feel that way in early May about a Jake Irvin start. Now I do.
And Irvin did well against the Braves for a second time in 3 starts. Irvin, his previous start came against the Cleveland Guardians this past Sunday afternoon, but his start prior to that came in a 2-0 loss at the Braves on May 28th. Irvin in that game, 6 scoreless innings, 10 strikeouts. So for a second time in 3 starts, Irvin does a really good job, tosses 6 scoreless innings against the Braves. And if you work backward now, what Jake Irvin has been doing over his last handful of starts. So he did what he did on Friday evening. I mentioned the game against the Guardians this past Sunday afternoon. That was a 5-2 Nats win at the Guardians. Irvin in that game, 2 runs in 6 innings, 6 strikeouts, 1 walk. His previous start, the 2-0 loss at the Braves on May 28th. Irvin in that game, 6 scoreless innings, 10 strikeouts. His start prior to that one, a 3-2 loss to the Minnesota Twins at Nationals Park on May 22nd. Irvin in that game, 2 runs in 6 into 3rd innings with 6 strikeouts versus no walks. This is quite a 4-start run that Irvin is on. And, at various points this season, I think we've been able to debate who is the Nats' best starting pitcher in the moment. And I don't know that it's crystal clear that it's Jake Irvin, but it is becoming clearer and clearer. I actually think what Mackenzie Gore does this weekend might go a long ways toward telling us who is the Nats' best starting pitcher right now. But whether you want to say Irvin or Gore or Trevor Williams prior to getting hurt or Mitchell Parker with the way that he has been pitching, you do have a nice game of, anything you can do, I can do better, it feels like, with this Nats rotation, with the way that it has been going. And I think you could argue that right now, Jake Irvin is the Nats' best starting pitcher.
When you began that question, my instinct was to say, no, it's Gore. But then I realized that's because I've been told that Gore stuff is better for years, ever since I was really introduced to him when the Juan Soto trade happened a couple of summers ago. When you talk about it and you look at it, blind taste test, the numbers stack up in favor of Jake Irvin. Now, we're not even at the halfway point, all the caveats that you've mentioned. But so far, yes, Jake Irvin is the best pitcher on the Washington Nationals.
If you go by whip, he has the best whip of any Nats starting pitcher so far this regular season. So great job by Jake Irvin.
This episode of Nats Chat is brought to you by DC Grays Baseball. DC Grays Baseball is an all-volunteer nonprofit that brings baseball and softball to kids in under-resourced neighborhoods of DC. Inspired by the great Grays team of the Negro Leagues, who played many championship seasons in Washington, with stars like Josh Gibson and Buck Leonard, the DC Grays have developed their MVP program. It gives boys and girls in underserved parts of DC the same opportunity to pursue their baseball and softball dreams as do kids from more affluent parts of the DMV. The Grays provide expert coaching, uniforms, equipment, and tournament travel free of charge. A donation of $100 will help a child in DC to participate in the Grays MVP program. The Grays also field a team in the Cal Ripken Summer Collegiate Baseball League. Their 2024 season is now underway. To donate and learn more about the Grays, go to dcgrays.com.
Before history is written, it's played. Before it's frozen in time, it's fought one shift at a time. Before it's etched in silver, it's carved in ice. What happens next will last forever. The Stanley Cup Final on ABC and ESPN Plus begins Saturday.
When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Baker's, where you'll find over 30,000 mouth-watering choices that excite your inner foodie. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices, plus extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week. You can also save up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with fuel points. More savings and more inspiring flavors make shopping Baker's worth it every time. Baker's, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
Another missed game for James Wood with Rochester. In Double-A, Dylan Cruz went 1 for 2 on Friday night. Drew 2 walks, hitting behind him the third baseman Brady House, 3 for 4, including a double. Now back to the show.
Finnegan sets. Here's the pitch. Swinging a ground ball to third. Senzel has it. He'll go to second for 1. The relay by Vargas to first. The stretch. It's a double play. It's a double play. Around the horn they go. 5-4-3. Started by Nick Senzel at third. And a huge turn of events on a huge pitch by Kyle Finnegan. Listen to this crowd.
The Nats bullpen in this 2-1 win over the Braves on Friday evening came through. We had 3 Nats relievers combining to allow 1 run in 3 innings. And the 1 run is dubious. I'll explain here in a moment. But Derek Law was good. A perfect top of the 7th with 2 strikeouts. We then did have Hunter Harvey allowing a run in the top of the 8th inning. So for a second consecutive game, Harvey got to at least some degree in the top of an 8th. But there's a context to what happened with Hunter Harvey. So as was the case in the game on Thursday evening, a game in which Harvey allowed 3 runs in the top of the 8th, Harvey in this game in which he allowed the 1 run in the top of the 8th, retired each of the first 2 batters he faced. He then gave up a 2-out first pitch double by Marcell Ozuna. Now that on its surface will sound ominous because Harvey in the game on Thursday evening gave up a 2-out first pitch, 2-run homer by Ozuna on a bomb to left center. But this double by Ozuna came on a routine fly ball to center field that center fielder Jacob Young lost in the sky. A rare defensive miscue for Jacob Young. So this double was not on Harvey. This was a ball that should have been caught for a routine flyout instead wound up being a double. Now, Harvey did then give up a 2-out RBI single to Matt Olson to right field to cut the Nats lead to 2-1 despite Harvey having had Olson down in the count at 1.12. So you can put some blame on Harvey for that, but the double you do not put on Harvey. And then we had Kyle Finnegan in the top of the 9th, a scoreless, hitless, and walkless top of the 9th for the save. This was interesting. Finnegan struck out the first batter he faced, Adam Duvall, but Duvall reached base on a swinging strike 3 wild pitch. But Finnegan then induced a 5-4-3 double play off the bat of Orlando Arcia as Nick Senzel made a terrific backhanded catch of the Arcia grounder and then fired a very accurate throw to second baseman Ildemaro Vargas. And then Finnegan struck out Sean Murphy looking on 3 pitches to end the game. So it was a bit adventurous at times for the Nats bullpen, but ultimately the pen came through.
Yeah, I want to focus on that 8th inning. I like that Davey Martinez went right back to Hunter Harvey immediately after the Braves hit him hard on Thursday night. And yeah, the Jacob Young miscue, I thought, oh man, this thing's about to unravel. because, you don't want to give any team extra outs, but Marcell Ozuna and Matt Olson in the middle of the order in a late game, I mean, one of the worst spots to do it. Harvey gets out of that. The Senzel double play, one of the best defensive plays the Nats as a team have had this season. That was really impressive and very clutch. I don't know if it was Millis's fault on the Duvall strikeout. I guess technically you could say it was. But I thought, okay, here's another extra out that the Braves are being given here. And Finnegan, who has at times been a top-notch closer this year, looked the part in the ninth inning, overcoming that, fourth strikeout.
He did, and him striking out Murphy looking to end the game was a really good moment. I mean, the crowd erupted. Finnegan was fired up. That was one of those great snapshot moments from this Nats season so far. Yeah, I mean, I think the swinging strike three wild pitch is one of those plays that you can't put on Millis, but it is a play that you would like to see Millis make, a stop that you would like to see Millis make. And after the play, you could tell that he was a little down on himself for having not stopped that wild pitch. But that was a wild pitch by Finnegan. I mean, I think you do have to say that. And then the Nats respond. And, with Nick Senzel, I think his defense at third base at times has been lacking. Like, it's actually made me appreciate more the defense the Nats got from Jeimer Candelario last season at third base. But he's capable. And, man, that was a really good play by Senzel. Not just the stop, not just the backhanded catch, but what a throw to second base to Vargas. Initially, as that play's happening, I'm like, all right, they're not going to get a double play, are they? And it's like, no, they're going to get the double play, and they got it. So awesome stuff from Nick Senzel right there. Well, we mentioned the Nats facing the great Chris Sale in this 2-1 win over the Braves on Friday evening. The Nats offense for the game, 2 runs, 5 hits, just 2 walks, 1 for 6 with runners in scoring position. The 5 hits were comprised of a triple, a double, and 3 singles. The Nats struck out 11 times. The Nats did make another out on the base pass in terms of a runner being thrown out in an attempted steal. So this was not a good game for the Nats offense. But when you pitch as well as the Nats pitched on Friday evening, you don't need to have excellent offense. And the Nats in this game got just enough offense. Once again, the only Nat who had a multi-hit game in a game was Jesse Winker, who is getting on base like crazy right now. Jesse Winker on Friday evening as the Nats starting left fielder and number 7 batter, 2 for 3 with 2 singles. His on-base percentage for this regular season is up to .369. Winker is getting on base at an excellent clip. Give him credit for that. In terms of the Nats' 2 runs in this game, they both came in the bottom of the 4th inning, and we saw the Nats' running game reemerge. That has been an item that has been obvious here in recent weeks with the struggles of the Nats offense. The running game has calmed down big time, but the Nats in this inning able to inflict harm on the Braves via the running game. So the 2-run 4th for the Nats began with a CJ Abrams leadoff opposite field hustle double into left field. We then got a walk by Nick Senzel. He in that 2-run 4th drew a 1-out walk, and he then had a steal of second base that prompted a throwing error by catcher Sean Murphy, on which CJ Abrams, who had stolen third base on the play, scored. So the speed of Nick Senzel ends up prompting the throwing error. Senzel with the stolen base makes it so that every Nats position player who has played in a game in this regular season has at least 1 stolen base. That has been the joke, that every Nats position player had a stolen base with the exception of Senzel. Well, no more can we say that. The speedster, Nick Senzel, came through with that stolen base, and we see what the running game can do in terms of making a defense get off track. And with Abrams, so he gets the steal of third base on that play, his first stolen base since May 4th, not since Star Wars Day had CJ Abrams had a stolen base. A lot of that has been due to Abrams actually getting a good number of extra base hits this season. But, Abrams, we know his May was not very good. So a good chunk of that is just Abrams not getting on base all that much lately. I mean, he had a really bad May. June so far has been uneven, but he gets himself a stolen base right there. And we see the Nats running game be back and in full effect in that 2-run 4th.
Yeah, I loved the Nats' approach in the 4th inning there. Sale has 5 strikeouts through 3 shutout innings. It looked like he's on his A stuff for the evening. They get a little bit of action on the bases, and then they try to run their way and see if a little bit of chaos can lead to a run, and that's exactly what happened. The Nats get basically a freebie run right there on the bad throw. Abrams advances home, and then it put pressure and the Braves on their heels for the entire inning. So I really like that sort of old school small ball manufacturer run, with your legs kind of approach, which the Nats do a little bit too much of, but needed to in the fourth inning tonight. Got it done, and it was all that they needed for a victory.
Loved seeing Abrams get that leadoff double. That, of course, ignited the inning. And then we later in the inning got an RBI single by Ildemaro Vargas. He for this game was the Nats' starting second baseman and number 5 batter, 1 for 3 with the RBI single. Vargas in the Nats' 2-run fourth, a 2-out RBI single into left center field for a 2-0 Nats lead despite having been down in the count at 1.12. Beyond that fourth inning, there was not much to this Nationals offensive performance. I mentioned the 2 singles for Jesse Winker. We did have a triple by Lane Thomas. He in this game as the Nats starting right fielder and number 2 batter, 1 for 3 with a triple and a walk. Thomas in the bottom of the 6th, a leadoff triple off the center field warning track, but the Nats did not score in that inning. That is something. You get a leadoff triple and you don't score in an inning. I mean, you get a leadoff triple, your run expectancy is through the roof. Instead, the Nats don't score. And then Thomas in the bottom of the 8th, a really good plate appearance, a 1-out walk despite having been down in the count at 1.02. He went from down 0-2 to drawing the walk, but Thomas then was thrown out in an attempted steal of second base, and yet another instance here lately of the Nats not being successful in an attempted steal. So the running game giveth, and the running game taketh away. The Nats only get the 2 runs, but the Nats get the win, and they win this game despite facing the mighty Chris Sale. We all get it. Big picture, there are real concerns with the offense. There, I think, continues to be frustration with the offense. There has to be. I mean, the sense of being another homerless game for the Nats, but I give them credit. I don't think we can emphasize this enough. Sale this season has been really good. You know that, doing the Braves podcast that you do. And for the Nats to win this game, I don't think many people expected them to win this game. So I give the Nats credit for winning this game.
I agree. It very well might be another Chris Sale Cy Young season. Right now, the favorite is Ranger Suarez, but he is one of the best pitchers in baseball, if not the best pitcher in baseball. I mean, if my life depended on it and I need a current pitcher in the National League to start a game for me tomorrow, I think I'd choose Chris Sale. So for Irvin to be the victorious pitcher against Sale on the night where he had his stuff, mark this one down, a little highlight on the end of the year scorecard.
From groan-worthy dad jokes to patching up skinned knees, your dad is one of a kind. This Father's Day, give him a gift that is guaranteed to take him to his happy place. Omaha Steaks. Order mouth-watering gift packages starting at just $89 when you go to omahasteaks.com and use promo code NATSCHAT at checkout. Each package is backed by their unconditional money-back guarantee. Show your dad the love he deserves with a gift as unforgettable as he is. Visit omahasteaks.com, promo code NATSCHAT at checkout.
Hi Nats fans, this is Tim Newmark, DC area composer, longtime Nationals fan, and proud composer of the Nats Chat podcast theme song. If you're enjoying the music and would like to hear more, check out timnewmark.com/streaming or just search for Tim Newmark wherever you listen to music. To find the rest of the song you're hearing now, search for the title Double in the Sun. Go Nats!
Tim Shovers here to tell you about Game Time. This summer at Jiffy Lube Live, acts include Neil Young, Hank Williams Jr., and Chris Stapleton. If you're interested in finding tickets to any of these shows, make sure to check out the Game Time app. Game Time is the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. See the view from your seat before you buy so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code NATSCHAT for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code NATSCHAT for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
The lefty's 2-2. Swinging a ground ball toward the middle. Arcia dives. It's by him. It's a base hit into left center field. Senzel will score easily as the play is into second base. Ildemaro Vargas with an RBI single. The Nationals lead 2-0. Clutch hit for Vargas. RBI number 10 on the season.
So we have Game 3 for the Nats against the Braves in this 4-game series at Nationals Park. Saturday afternoon, 4:05. Mackenzie Gore will be the Nats starting pitcher facing Charlie Morton. Like we said, the Nats get this win, snap the 4-game losing streak. This is only the Nats' 9th win since getting to 19-18. This has been an odd deal. The Nats got to 19-18, a game above 500 with a 5-1 win at the Boston Red Sox on May 10th. Since then, have struggled big time from a one-loss standpoint. Get this win, though, on Friday evening. We had the sellout crowd on Friday evening, I think in large part because of the Flo Rida concert, let's be honest. But, this is an appealing matchup. Braves as an opponent, Friday evening, etc. Do you think that most Nats fans, if they had to oversimplify their feelings about this season, happy with the season, displeased with the season, where do you think most Nats fans would land?
If you asked me this 2 weeks ago, I would have said overwhelmingly in the happy category. The last few weeks, and you talked about how the team has played since the series at Fenway, has gone the opposite direction. But given the situation with Irvin and Parker and Finnegan and Harvey, just that alone, I think you have to be happy. And they have had stretches of winning despite Gray still not being there. On Sunday, that's 2 months for him on the IL. So given all of that, I still think the answer is happy.
Yeah, I think it is too, because I think the big negative, the offense, so much of that has to do with guys who are not long-term pieces here. Now, there are people who are supposed to be long-term pieces here who have been struggling, no doubt. Keibert Ruiz, principal among them. We know about CJ Abrams, although at least you could say he had the great April. But the big positive, the starting pitching, at least a sizable chunk of that has to do with building blocks, with young players who now have become significant pieces in the rebuild. Mackenzie Gore, Jake Irvin, Mitchell Parker. So I think when viewed through that prism, I think you have reason to actually feel pretty good about the way that this season is going. Now, if you are supremely invested in wins and losses, then no, you're not thrilled with things right now, understandably so. I think this is kind of an odd season from a standpoint of, in previous recent seasons, it was not about the one-loss record, and I think anyone who tried to tell you otherwise was just way off. Like early in a rebuild, it's not about your record. Now that the Nats are kind of in this transition period of you're trying to transition from the early portion of the rebuild until the latter stages of the rebuild. The hope, and I've talked about this, is that this would be a breakout season for the Nats. I think this is the first time in multiple seasons that you do kind of, sort of, at least focus on the wins and the losses. And so, like I said, if you are into the record, and I think you should be to at least some degree, you're not thrilled with things right now. Like I said, the record is only 28-35. But if you are still viewing this from a bigger picture, macro perspective, I think there are more things to like than not like. That's not to say that there aren't things that you do want to see happen. I mean, I mentioned Keibert Ruiz. I think this is a big deal, the season that he's having. He had another bad game on Friday evening, starting designated hitter, number 6 batter, 0 for 3 with 2 strikeouts. So, there are things like that, but the pitching continues to be so good, and we saw the pitching on full display on Friday evening be really good.
The Ruiz thing's a problem. There's just no point in talking around it. The Nats made him their franchise catcher, and it looks like he simply might not be good enough for that role. Haven't given up yet, but there are a lot of indications there, and I think that there are a lot of reasons why the Riley Adams-Drew Millis swap just happened. But that's probably one of them, because the Nats got to figure out what the heck to do behind the plate. And maybe Keibert Ruiz turns out to be a serviceable guy every day. But right now it seems like that the gamble on that might not work out well. So I do want to say, you talk about happy or not happy. Though, now that we're well into June, I think any Nats fan that's mad that there's been no James Wood or anyone else other than Trey Lipscomb called up, that's a legitimate reason to be aggravated. I know that there's circumstance to all of those prospects, but we thought in March that there'd be more guys up by now, by June 7th.
Oh, yeah. Coming into this season, I thought by May we might have both James Wood and Dylan Cruz up at the major league level, and we have not come close to having that. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be really disheartening if we don't see James Wood soon once he's back from this injury. Now, I don't have great hopes that we're going to see him before the All-Star break. So, I've kind of readjusted my timeline to, all right, by the end of July, let's hopefully have James Wood up and producing at the major league level, but who knows? And then with Dylan Cruz, he got off to the bad start this season, dealt with injury, had a much better May than he had April, but, he still has to navigate his way through AA, and then presumably is going to have to spend some time at AAA. So I don't know that we're going to see Dylan Cruz at the major league level this season. I mean, what matters the most with those guys, obviously, is that they long-term are the great players they were drafted to be. So I don't know that it matters a ton this season what happens with them in terms of do they get called up? When do they get called up? The idea is by next season at this time, are those guys up, or at least in the case of Cruz, is he tracking toward being called up imminently? It really matters where you are a year from now with those guys as opposed to this season when exactly they get called up and what they do. But there's no question coming into this season, I think a lot of people thought by now that at least one of the two, if not both, would be called up. I think with Keibert Ruiz, if Riley Adams was doing a lot better, if Drew Millis was doing better in his limited playing time, you'd have a really interesting dilemma. Because all three have had struggles to varying degrees, it's kind of lessened the weight on Keibert because you can't sit here and pound the table for Riley Adams should be the starting catcher when he has struggled immensely offensively recently and just got demoted. And Drew Millis so far in this latest stint at the major league level has not been very impressive when he has played. But Keibert has been really bad this season. And unlike in the past when you could say, well, the results are bad, but some of the process stuff is good. Some of the StatCast data for Keibert as a batter is good. You can't say that this season. And you combine that with the defense still not being very good. And he statistically speaking has been one of the worst catchers in the majors this season. You hate saying that, but it's the truth. So, you hope like heck that a month from now things are different, and they certainly could be. But he continues to have problems. He has not been anything close to consistent offensively. His OPS for this regular season is down to 518. So we'll see. That's probably the biggest negative for the Nats this season, that Keibert Ruiz has had this season that he has had.
Did not realize, because you follow those stats more closely than I do. I didn't realize just how bad it's gotten with Keibert Ruiz. And there have been a few emails that have come in, a few more starting in May. And it's okay, Nats fans, if you're having concerns about the Ruiz thing. And this is an interesting example too, Al, where the trend has been, you have a hot prospect, pay him early, get rid of the free agency thing as soon as possible. So far, this trend, this could be the first real L we've seen with this, because the sample size on these aren't huge yet. So I also think that's sort of a side interesting thing if you're interested in the business aspect of it.
Yeah, the good news from a business perspective is that it's not an overwhelming contract. It was 8 years, $50 million. You don't want to have to eat that, but there have been far bigger contracts that teams, including the Nats, have had to eat in recent years. When you think about, Steven Strasburg's deal and Patrick Corbin's deal. So you can live with 8 for $50 not working out if in fact it doesn't. But we're not there yet, and baseball can change on a dime. And so, like I said, what you hope for is that a month from now, 2 months from now, Keibert Ruiz is in a much different and better place, both offensively and defensively. But so far this season has not gone well. But Friday evening did go well. Great job by the Nats to beat Chris Sale and the Braves. And we'll see if the Nats can at least clinch a split of this 4-game series with Mackenzie Gore pitching on Saturday. This installment of the Nats Chat podcast brought to us by the DC Grays Baseball, an all-volunteer nonprofit that brings baseball and softball to kids in under-resourced neighborhoods in Washington, D.C. The Grays 2024 season is now underway. To donate and learn more about the Grays, visit dcgrays.com. You can hit us up on X at Nats_chat. You can email the show, natschatpodcast@gmail.com. We have a website that you can check out, natschatpodcast.com, at which you can purchase a Nats Chat Podcast t-shirt. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat are courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. Don't forget that we are offering shout-outs on the Nats Chat Podcast this season. If you want to send a hello, a congratulations, a happy birthday, whatever, to someone who you care about, email Tim, natschatpodcast@gmail.com. For Tim Shovers, I'm Al Galdi. We thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat Podcast.
John and Jim, the lineup cards are being exchanged now at home plate. For the moment, Steven Strasburg is in the Nationals dugout. What are his teammates looking for? They know he has talent, but in terms of his demeanor, what are they looking for?
Well, they're all looking for doing whatever they can to help him get through this game, and then they're going to look for signs that might third baseman Zimmerman come over and calm them down. But I think they're anxious and really looking forward to this start as well as everybody in the stands. And when you know that he's getting ready to do something that each player in that field has done, you feel for him. And so you have compassion and you just try to do your part.
Brace yourself for something fuel nominal. Unleaded 88 is the clear fuel choice. It's cheaper, cleaner, and greener. And it's grown by Iowa corn farmers. Now that's totally worth the hype. So pump it up with Unleaded 88.